Good evening, everyone. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, Middletown Patch, and the Middletown Township website, and the posting of such notice over the team item administrative offices and each elementary, middle, and secondary school district. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminetti, Mr. Donlin,
Here.
Mrs. Farley, here, Mr. Heffernan, Mr. Little,
Here.
Mrs. Bailey's, here, Mrs. Wright, here, Mrs. Tobacco, here, Mr. Capone.
Here. Need a resolution for executive session?
So,
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No longer. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Patch, and the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of such notice at the oldest two minor administrative offices in each elementary, middle, and secondary school in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminiti. Here. Mr. Donnelly.
Here.
Mrs. Farley. Here. Mr. Heffernan.
Here.
Mr. Little.
Here.
Mrs. Minuis. Here. Mrs. Wright. Here. Mrs. Tobacco. Here. Mr. Capone.
Here.
Mr. Chisano. Ms. Howe. Here.
We now stand for the pledge and a moment of silence. With great sadness, we share that Brianna Lentine passed away on October 18th. Ms. Lentine was a guidance counselor at High School South since 2015 and served as freshman sophomore class advisors. Brianna was the daughter of High School South business teacher Trish Lentine. The entire school community sends our deepest condolences and support to the Lentine family.
Through the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic.
Before we know our presentation, I'd just like to say, words cannot describe the impact that Ms. Lentine made on our children. She was a kind, loving, and faithful friend to all of her students. Ms. Lentine will be missed immensely. The grief and sorrow we all feel as a board about this tragic loss cannot be displayed by any one word. Please respect the wishes of the Lentine family and give them healing time and privacy. Our thoughts and prayers remain with the Lentine family. Brianne, in words my children said last night, I will concur. We will miss Mrs. Lentine. Rest in peace, Ms. Lentine. Now start our presentation, Student Safety System with Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight I will be presenting the student safety data system information as well as our HIB self-assessment scores for the 2021-2022 school year. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about SSDS information. So every year, school districts in the state of New Jersey are required to report information related to the following categories: violence, vandalism, substance, weapons, HIB confirmed, other incidents that result in suspension or school removal, and HIB alleged as well. You will see that the only incidents that the state considers reportable are violence, vandalism, substance, weapons, and confirmed HIBs. Those are the totals at the bottom. Other incidents and HIB alleged are not included in those numbers. Typically, we report just 2 years of data to the Board of Education and to the public. This year, I thought it'd be wise to go all the way back to 2018, 2019, due to the fact that our numbers were affected by the pandemic the last 3 years. So if you compare 2021 and 2022's numbers to 2018, 2019, they're a little bit more comparable. Obviously, our year last year was affected a little bit, but not quite as bad as 1920 and 2021. Last year, there were 33 incidents of violence that were reported, 1 incidence of vandalism, 15 substance, 0 weapons. There were 33 HIB confirmed. There were 73 other incidents. Those are incidents that occur that result in removal of school program for students, and then 159 alleged HIBs. Those are alleged HIBs that were not confirmed. So those are not included in the HIB confirmed numbers, and the totals are at the bottom. Next, we are going to talk about our HIB self-assessment scores. Again, every year, school districts and individual schools are required to complete a self-assessment based on HIB. The indicators that we use are HIB programs, initiatives that take place, any trainings, investigations, personnel, curriculum, the investigation process. So based on indicators that are given to us, we grade ourselves on a score of 0 to 3. 3 would be that we exceed the requirements. Two would be that we're meeting all the requirements. One would be partially meeting, and if you give yourself a 0, you're not meeting at all. If the school met all requirements and got a 2, the total score would be 52. The maximum grade that the school could receive would be 78 if they gave themselves a 3 for every indicator. If we go to the next slide, these are the scores that are given by each school that use the self-assessment. These scores have been submitted to the state of New Jersey. They'll look at these scores and they will give us a hidden grade that will be presented to the district in the spring, and then that grade will be posted on the school website as well. Any questions about our SSDS information or our HIB self-assessment scores? Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
I'm going to invite up Dr. Kerrigan to speak about 2021-22 NJSLA results.
What's that? When?
Good evening, everybody. Once a year, we are required to report out on the spring NJSLA results from the previous school year. At the next board meeting, I'll talk about Start Strong and NJGPA. Those results are just arriving right now or in the next couple of weeks, but today's presentation is about 60-something slides, but I'm going to condense it to about 8 so that we just hit the highlights, but we'll make the rest of it available on the school's website in case you'd like to get more information. So we just came off a hiatus with standardized testing. We last took NJSLA in spring 2019, and we resumed it this year after a couple of disrupted years of COVID. The NJSLA was given in grades 3 through 9 for ELA and math. For math, it was a little bit weird. The students who had Algebra 1 in 8th grade were the ones who took the geometry NJSLA in 9th. So the other students did not. They will sit and take Algebra 1 in 10th grade. So part of our 9th grade class tested and part of it did not. And then we had NJSLA Science in grades 5, 8, and 11. And as I mentioned, the NJSLA was not given in 2020 or 2021. This past year, we also gave dynamic learning math assessment, which is an alternative to the NJSLA, and that's given in ELA math and science, and is provided to eligible students within the district during the same testing window. In addition, English language learners within the district were given the access assessment for ELLs 2.0 to assess their progress in learning English. In my presentation, the full 60-something slide presentation that we'll make available, I've cataloged all the different types of school reports that are required by the state and CUSAC. I'll just give some high-level highlights for each of these, but if you'd like to comb a little bit deeper, all of these will be listed and made available on our district website. So everybody wants to know, how do we do? And there's a lot of different ways to look at data. We can look at it from a growth perspective. We can compare how we did this year versus how we last did when we took the assessments. We have to keep in mind, if we do that, we're comparing different groups of students. On the whole, though, what we did notice, we looked at all of our NJSLA results this year versus the last time we took it. We found that our students did stay relatively on par with the results from 2019. And I combed the data really carefully, and I attended a couple of presentations run by Linkit, who are partners with about half of the school districts in New Jersey. So they collected all of the state testing results from all of those districts. And what we noticed is that at the state level, every single grade and subject went down anywhere from 7 to 12 points on average. Nobody went up. It was a drop across the state in ELA and in math from 2019. But in Middletown, we found out on average, our scores stayed about the same or maybe went down 3 to 4 points as opposed to 7 to 12. So the slump that we faced was a lot less than the slump that other schools faced, which I thought was pretty good. And when I was in the presentation by LinkedIn, they mentioned that districts like ours that are district factor group, not on either extreme end, that in New Jersey, they suffered the most. They experienced the greatest decline if you take them out separately from the average. So I think our teachers, our students, everybody did a really great job in kind of keeping those scores stable and not taking as much of a drop as other school districts did. We also showed growth in the ELL program, as noted by stronger performance on the access and ELL assessments. So I'll just give, again, a very quick description of what these sections look like. I'll just show the first slide and explain. And then if you'd like to look a little bit further, we have these categorized a bunch of different ways. So we have school and subject. For each assessment, students' performance is on a scale of 650 to 850, and they're color-coded along the continuum, where level 1 is not meeting expectations, all the way up to level 5, which is exceeding expectations. We had a great participation rate in our NJSLA. We typically strive for at least 95%. When we looked across all the different grades and subjects, we had, anywhere from like 97 to 99% across the board, which is great. So thank you to the parents and for the students for coming and taking the test seriously. And the same for middle school too. So in this group of slides, I have listed each individual school and their average on these assessments by subject and by grade. So if you'd like to take a look at that, that information is made available to you on our district website. In addition, I've created individual school assessment presentations that your principals will be delivering in PFA meetings if they haven't done so already. So they'll be able to talk in greater detail about the scores that you're seeing for each school. We met with all the principals as a central office team, so we were able to discuss those a little bit further. Some of the results that we've seen, the favorable ones could be a result of piloting a new program like Foundation, or just adjustments to how teachers are teaching, or new program adoptions in science or math, etc. So behind all of these scores is a story, and you will hear them in your PFA meetings. So we'll just fast forward through here. Again, all the information is here that you need by school if you'd like to take a look. All right, and again, for high school, it's only grade 9 only, because we've since moved to an NJGPA, which is an 11th grade assessment. Those results will be coming out soon, so the high school data is a little bit more limited at this time. New Jersey's phasing out the subject-specific assessments in the high school. I also compiled, again, just for comparison, if you'd like to see how our district did now compared to the last time we took, I compiled a bunch of tables that just list the percentage of students who met and exceed on the NJSLA versus the state level, and across the board in all grades and in all subjects, our average in Middletown of students meeting or exceeding expectations exceeded the state average if you look at our district as a whole. So I have all those percentages here if you'd like to see, but it was every single subject. So we're really proud of our staff and students. Okay, and I did the same thing for schools. If you want to take a look at the percent meeting and exceeding per school and how many students sat for the test, that I have listed here again by grade and by subject, so you can mine down further to the individual building. A lot of science. Science, again, so science is a little bit weird. Science they take in grades 5, 8, and 11, and that covers multiple years worth of science. So these tests are a little bit more challenging. The state averages on these are also on the lower end because it covers a lot. It covers earth and space science, life science, physical science, like lots of science. So students need to have a lot of knowledge of science to do well on these assessments. And again, what we saw was that our percentages in Middletown were excellent for these assessments as well. As you go up the chain from 5 to 8 to 11, performance does dip, but that matches the state trend as well. And it's challenging for high school students because their assessments are on biology, chemistry, and physics. So if any grade 11 student is taking that, they might not be fully done with the course yet, or they're trying to pull back knowledge from previous science classes that don't necessarily build on one another, like math or ELA does. We're also required to report subgroup analyses. So for each assessment, I've listed out our individual subgroups. And we as a team, our teachers, our specialists, our interventionists, our admins, we look very carefully at this information. And we make plans for individual buildings and teachers to target subgroups through small group instruction and other means. So this is information we take very seriously. And again, I have this listed for every single subject we have, and these are reports directly from the state. Dynamic learning maps, I also included these results in case you're unfamiliar. This is an alternative to the NJSLA. It's available to students who have an IEP and this test is deemed appropriate for them. And it also assesses understanding of English, language arts, mathematics, and science. And similar to an NJSLA, there's a scale of how students do on it. Instead of 5 categories on this test, they're scored, but it's kind of similar to the NJSLA breakdown. We are only able to report out on sample sizes that are 10 or more. So I've listed out grades 4 and 8. The other grades had a sample size that was under 10. So we're not allowed to report out on that information. But I did include here grades 4 and 8 and the percentage of students who have met the target or approached it or exceeded it, etc. And that also is an area that we seem to be improving in with more students at target or against. Access for ELS, the last assessment. This is another proficiency assessment specifically for English language learners, and it assesses comprehension and communication in English. There's some individual scores that go with it in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And then there's overall score buckets as well that go with it. This is scaled 1 to 6. So NJSLA was 1 to 5, DLM was like 4 categories, this one has 6. And the student needs a score of 4 or more to exit EL services. So again, I compiled the information here. We did have more than 10 students each year, so I'm able to report out on that. And we are seeing within the last 2 years an increase in students expanding, bridging, and reaching in the ELL program. So we're happy for those students and teachers as well. Intervention strategies that we've used: before and after school learning academies for elementary, middle school, mathematics, ELA, and science. We still have our relationship with Linkit, where we use benchmarking to stay abreast of how students are doing and make instructional changes as needed based on the result of those assessments. And with the support of Ms. Alphone, we've been working on our tiered systems of supports this year to further increase our school's academic profile. As with any data, this is just one measure of how students do. We don't like to define students by a number or a score. So with all of these scores, they're used very formatively by teachers to allow for some reflection, for some changes to pacing guides and curricula and things like that. We use the data to plan for remediation, enrichment, differentiation, all of those things. Our buildings also have learning design teams with teachers and support staff on them. They look at all of these data reports at the start of the year, and they help plan building goals and individual teacher professional development plans inside the classroom. So the reporting doesn't stop at me reading it or me presenting it to you. We take this information very seriously and put it in the hands of our teachers to make informed instructional decisions. If you're interested, there's more information through these links, and I welcome any questions anybody has. If you'd like to email me or contact me at some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Farragut. Move on to our negotiations report. This is the backup.
Hi, so another report that we have, our negotiation plan reached and binding with our MTEA teachers union. We will be voting on it tonight as a board, to prove just that memorandum of understanding, and the MTA is going to salary guide and we'll then review and we'll be voting on the entire contract.
Very good. You don't have any questions? Good. Moving on to curriculum instruction, this is Barb.
Here, we will move over to talk. So we had a meeting on October 6th, and we discussed a variety of items in curriculum instruction. Number one, we gave a final statistical update of our health instruction and our consent to instruct process. We did calculate the total number of actual units that were not going to be engaged in during the course of the year. And that number was minimal at 1.4%. So we were overall K to 12, we're running a little bit over 72,000 units of instruction in health. And we have, a 98.6% participation rate in those units. So our efforts were a success. And our students K to 12 will be engaging in the majority of our health content. So I just want to thank the community, the board, and my team of administrators and curriculum for doing such a thorough job on our efforts with the health program. So it was very successful and continues to be. Another topic we discussed, which we will have further discussions on because it will come next through the policy committee as an updated regulation, is our process on summer credit recovery and quality points and how we report out those summer courses on a transcript. So more will come once that is solidified in the regulation. We are also looking to align our processes a little more succinctly with what universities and colleges look to examine on a transcript. Our transcripts are, a little in disconnect as to what universities and colleges are actually looking at through the admissions process. In that conversation will also come how we currently calculate class rank. We're exploring the possibility of potentially moving towards a system where we look at percentage bands versus a straight 1 through, numerical ranking 1 to 10, 1 to 15. Certainly still, providing students with the information they need for their college applications and giving accolades to our highest performers, but in a manner that is more in line with, again, how universities and colleges interpret the information. And also, we looked at the mental health component of it and how, the lockstep ranking of students in numerical fashion creates an environment where every single assessment and assignment for our high-performing students is extremely high stakes. So we're looking for ways to still have the benefit and the recognition that kids deserve, but also, pay attention to the other aspects that come into play. But again, that will come through policy next because it could become part of a revised regulation. We also talked about the potential of exploring addition of Italian to our middle school world language program. We have found over time that our high school numbers in Italian have increased, but they cap out in how high they can actually study Italian at the high school level, not because of the coursework, but because they don't have the foundational skills that students who have taken French or Spanish at the middle school level do. So we are currently exploring some of our options to offer world language or Italian as our third world language option at the middle school. So more to come with that. We are also pursuing some grant funding that could potentially help to offset the cost of a salary or any cost incurred by adding that staff member or the program in the future. Again, another exploratory topic was our high school schedule committee reconvened. That was started at the end of last school year. We picked it back up this year. We just had another meeting with our voluntary group to explore potential different opportunities for structure at the high school level. We certainly are going to be speaking with our staffs at the high school and then also asking our community members to weigh in, parents of our middle schoolers, parents of our current high schoolers, our 12th graders who are exiting this schedule, their feedback is also important. So we are just in the beginning stages of trying to continue those conversations. So we will continue to report out on that as time moves forward. We are also in the process of exploring a junior Air Force Junior ROTC program at our high schools to try to expand some of our alternative offerings. outside of the pathways that we currently have. It is a pretty intensive process with a competitive application. So as we get more information about that, Dr. Cartier is spearheading that effort. We will keep the board and the public informed. Parents received a letter approximately a week ago, just solidifying our schedule for midterm and final examinations this year. We have decided to move out of our quarterly assessment structure for many reasons. Certainly, the pressure of 4 assessments additional during the year was a major factor. We are also going to be administering those midterms and finals on early release times for our high school students, which will give our kids a chance to go home, decompress, potentially study for their next set of exams. It will also give our teachers an opportunity to look at those assessments and give some actionable feedback to students in a timely manner. So it was an overall good decision, one that our district assessment committee and our high school staffs and administrative team fully supported. So we wanted to get you that schedule early. So that is why that letter went out. On the agenda for approval are our ESL curriculums K-5. You saw the access for ELL learner scores, and that, as Dr. Kerrigan mentioned, is the exiting criteria to be considered exited from ESL services. This year, we have solidified a curricula. We're a year ahead of the game. It is not a requirement until next year. However, most of our K-5 ESL services fully align with what our literacy instruction looks like. So we were able to dovetail a lot of the programming we have in our K-5 literacy program to capture that in a very strong ESL curriculum as well. Our 6 through 8 and our 9 through 12 is a little bit different because those students are not in the primary stages of early literacy. So we do have to facilitate a different type of programming for that student with no language that may come in at the high school or middle school level. That curriculum will be on our November agenda for approval. I'll just move right into special services. Matt, do you want to chime in on the mental health, or I can just give a quick recap? Yeah. Dr. Young gave a presentation to our special services committee about the various mental health services and supports we currently have in the district. She did a very thorough presentation. She also mimicked that presentation at our parent information committee. And that information will be posted on the website.
It should be noted that Dr. Young will be presenting that presentation on the November board meeting as well.
Dr. Young also outlined an important addition to our programming called the Stop It app, and it will give the community at large, community members, parents, students, administrators, the ability to anonymously report through an app situations that might concern them, so that response can be immediate. It links to various crisis centers and other supports for students or other people that may be in need, and there is no delay in that information getting in the hands of the right people in a timely manner, so that way an adequate response can happen.
The services are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is a link with the police department as well. The app offers other resources like families that may be in need of food or clothing. They can get access to those as well. The program is funded through a grant for 2 years, and then our insurance picks it up beyond that. So it's a long-term solution. There's 100 districts right now, I believe, that are using the program, and the language that they've been using that has been a game changer. So we're excited to implement it.
We also discussed and have posted for the addition of a special education teacher at the elementary level to support some of our students who are struggling with some behavioral situations that we are actively interviewing for or getting ready to interview for. The posting is up. And with that, we will also be looking to add some additional ESS Tier 3 wraparound services to support some of our students in need and some of those families at the elementary level. So we are continuing to expand our level of service in the social emotional area, behavioral and mental health, for, our elementary kids, in addition to, the other expansions that we've made K to 12. We discussed the idea of in-class support for electives at the middle school level and in-class support for writing at the elementary level. And we are working with NJCIE, who has guided us into a model where we're looking at consultation, in-class support consultation. So teachers who have students that may need some additional supports in the classroom, they would have the ability to consult with a special education teacher how to best serve our students in those elective courses. So that partnership with NJCIE has been really strong and has helped us to continue to work towards more effectiveness in those inclusive settings. So we're really excited for those initiatives, and it keeps expanding year after year. The last thing we discussed was a proposal that we will be moving forward with, called Learn Excellence for Athletes. It's a program to support our athletes in mental health. Certainly the unique needs of the student athlete, our coaching staffs and our parents of student athletes. So that is something that we brought forth to the Special Services Committee, and we'll be looking to implement that sometime during the course of the school year. So that's all I have. It was a busy day.
What will that program contain? Like, how will it work?
So what'll happen is they will provide programming for every season of athletes. So there will be student-led type of assembly situations where the gentleman will speak with the students on strategies to cope with, the pressures of being a student athlete. There will also be coaches seminars. So that way, for every season, 3 of them, so that way they can have a different perspective on the mental health angle in athletics, because it's really important for them to be cognizant of that. And then there will be parent programs as well. So they can be aware of some of the things that they could be speaking with their children about, or signs that they may be, needing to recognize, because, our athletes typically put a great deal of pressure on themselves, and it is a needed area. So it will be very comprehensive.
Sounds good. And then my other question goes back to the high school schedule.
Yeah.
Are we on a timeline for that? Do we have a certain deadline that we have to notify that we're looking to change it for next year?
So if you want to make a change for next year, it would have to be like a hustle up kind of situation. We wanted to make sure that we have buy-in from stakeholders before moving forward, and determine what the best structure for instructional minutes per class period is. So we're in the getting that information phase, doing due diligence with research, and the research is very divided on it at this point. Depending on what you read, there's an argument to be had for an extended 80-minute. That's typically 80 to 90 minutes versus a more traditional 60, anywhere from 45 to 60-minute block. And to be quite honest, there's divided opinion amongst educators just in general. So we want to make sure that we as a collective community are all on board with that change. But if the honest answer is, if we do want to do that for next year, it would have to be a decision made fairly quickly. So we're planning on moving quickly through the information gathering and stakeholder process, so that way we can at least know if we're gonna move forward quickly for next year.
Okay. I have a question. With regard to the splits.
Yes.
Are we just going to that we're? Or
High school right now. Yeah, high school right now.
and is it days of programming, or is it hours and hours?
So it's session, so it's by season, I believe, right?
We'll be able to actually capture all.
Oh, absolutely. We'll capture all athletes, all coaches, and all parents.
I believe there's a plan to implement it in a fashion that we'll be able to catch our fall season athletes that are in season right now as well.
Wow.
Towards obviously the tail end of it.
That's the ultimate goal.
Very good. Anyone else have any questions? This outcome was 98.6%.
Yes, 1.4 non-participation rate for the units. If we looked at our overall, like anyone that opted out of something or just decided not to do something, it was a little under 6% per person.
So I mean, both numbers are very, very strong.
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
No other questions? Moving on to student services, Mr. Little. 15? Perfect.
We're the same group.
The facilities and finance, Mrs. Dodd.
So we met on October 13th and went over things that were going to be on the agenda and also some other updates. On the agenda this evening is the annual comprehensive maintenance plan and Form M1 submission. Those documents are submitted to the county office after the board approves them. The maintenance plan lays out the maintenance for the various schools and ties it back to the budget. The M1 also presents the budgeted expenditures and then evaluates that based upon what the state form would calculate as your minimum expenditure for facilities to really make sure that districts are putting enough money toward facilities and not shortcutting that area. But we had a discussion about this M1, which is a New Jersey Department of Ed created form meant to analyze our district annual maintenance budget. The fact that what we were noticing was they use very outdated, undervalued replacement values for our buildings, and what the impact that would have would be resulting in minimum target maintenance expenditures, like we were just referring to, and maximum maintenance reserve calculations that are artificially low. So the numbers that we're comparing to are really not current value numbers. And we felt that that was something that was worth noting. Even the metrics included on this form, or even using those metrics, our maintenance reserve that we have in our district of $569,000 is well below the maximum maintenance reserve amount per the M1 calculation of 7.7 million. But in actuality, that 7.7 million, since it's based on undervalued replacement values, really should be higher. So long and the short of it is, the state is looking at our maintenance expenditures, comparing them to low numbers, and our maintenance reserve is well below the maximum that we would be allowed to have. So we'll be submitting those forms after the board approves them tonight for submission. There's also a couple of other things that we put on the agenda under facilities and finance after we had the meeting. One of them are the approvals to submit to the New Jersey DOE for our HVAC projects that we are doing with the ARC-ESSER funds, and also the high school north track and field project that's in this year's budget. So you'll see that on the agenda. This is just a submission to the DOE to get approval to move forward. They compare it to our long-range facilities plan and make sure that there are things that are in line with our educational plan, which they are. We also have some transportation jointers that we've continued to add, where we share transportation with other districts for out-of-district routes to save on the cost for us, and also help the other districts get something at a lower cost than they would get going out to bid for themselves. So it's a win-win on both situations. We also did a facilities department update with our facilities director, Mr. Nasser, giving an update of various projects that are going on. We did inform the committee that there will be some things going on over the November break, particularly some gym floors are going to be refinished and some other work in all the buildings. We have the chance to do that while the students are out of the buildings. We also have, again, the planning and the development of the bid specs for the HVAC work and the football field and track projects at North moving along, and they will be going out to bid in the next few months. We also talked a little bit about facility staffing, that has improved. At this point, we only have a few positions that are vacant that we are still posting for, but we have improved in that area since last year, where we were maintaining quite a few vacancies. Mr. Nasser also talked about some changes that are being made in operating our HVAC equipment in order to save energy and to reduce the runtime. So we are looking to implement those changes to make sure that we are not overrunning, the equipment and accelerating its approaching end of life. So we are looking to do that and
make those changes. We also talked about some very preliminary long-range budget projections in our finance part of the meeting, and the fact that we're going to be looking at the last 2 years of the implementation of the S2 budget state aid cuts, and also the fact that the funding that we're receiving that's related to the pandemic, our ESSER funds, the other ESSER funds, all of those funding sources are going to be liquidated within the next few years. The ESSER 2 goes through 23, the ESSER 3 goes through 2024. There are some things we've been funding with those grants that we're going to have to look to see whether they would be included in our local budget or whether they would be things that would be no longer needed as we move through the pandemic. But we did look at the fact that, with revenues being relatively stagnant, with the exception of the increase in our tax levy and the state aid not projected to go up, looking to see what our expenditures would look like over the next 5 years, and starting to make plans on how to adjust for these changes in losing the pandemic funding and also adjusting to our new level of state aid. So we just did a very high level discussion on that. We have 2 things that we are going that I wanted to report out on that were not on the meeting agenda because we didn't know about them. One of them is the School Violence Prevention Program grant that the district applied for. The application was due June 30th. We did receive word at the end of last week that we were awarded that grant, so we're very happy about that. It was $491,000. It's going to be coming to the district. The maximum grant amount for any one particular district would be $500,000, so we are very close to that cap. The grant was submitted to do a project on access controls and card access in all of the buildings. So there are only specific things that could be submitted for under this grant. We did submit for that, which was an eligible project, and we were awarded those funds. So we will be accepting that grant, and we will start to move forward on doing that project. We have a few years. That grant goes through, I believe, 2025. So we have some time to get that lined up and in place. There has also been some discussion about grant funds that were recently announced for other entities in the state for hiring of law enforcement officers. And I just want to clarify for the board that that was a different grant program than the grant program that we submitted for. The other grant program was called the COPS hiring program. We are not eligible to submit for that grant. That grant was for law enforcement agencies. So if you read something about funds being awarded to other entities for the hiring of police officers, it was only law enforcement agencies that could apply. There were also other rubrics that they were, even if, well, first of all, not a law enforcement agency, but they also did give preference to applicants in areas of persistent poverty and other factors as well. So if you look at the awards that were made in that program, it was municipalities such as New Brunswick, Atlantic City, Newark, Perth Amboy, they received large awards. There were some other awards as well, but I think, I just want there to be a clear understanding from the board, because there was a press release including our funds with the announcement of those funds, but they were 2 different programs and we were not eligible for the COPS funding program. And that concludes our report.
Thank you, Ms. Barr. Moving on to policy, Ms. Tobacco or Mr. Patrick.
I'll just start by saying just to the board that tonight we will be voting on second reading and adopting 3 policies: policy 3233, political activities; policy 2430, co-curricular activities; and policy 2240, controversial issues that we discussed in the previous meeting. And then Mr. Patrick will talk about.
Yes, so we did not have a meeting, but we did share a policy that's on the first read electronically. There were so few changes that we were able to discuss it electronically. So just in summary, Strauss Esme updated policy 5512, which is harassment, intimidation, and bullying, in April 2022, and it includes 2017 administrative code revisions and January 2022 ABR revisions. Now, in August, the New Jersey Department of Education provided school districts with an updated model policy for HIB. So back in the spring, we updated our policy as it should be by state requirement. But what happened was the state gave everyone a model policy that they wanted all school districts to follow. There were very few changes. It was all strike throughs and bolds and few language changes from paragraph to paragraph, but no change in actual content. So there's no actual changes, basically just strike throughs and bold lettering. And again, that's the first read for policy 5512, which is harassment, intimidation, and bullying.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkpatrick. Any questions? Moving on to co-curricular technology, Ms. Bennett.
We did meet. But not only did Jessica do curriculum and student services, she also did part of my co-curriculum. Yes, you did. Mr. Carroll is here to correct me if I do something wrong, but I don't know. Okay, so yes, we started off our meeting with the sports psychologist that's coming to speak with the coaches, with the athletic, as far as the parents and the athletes, which is very exciting. Like Jessica said, we are going to, it's going to be 3 times in the year, and hopefully it will help going forward with how we expect our coaches and everybody to interact with everybody. And we want them to win, and we also want good sportsmanship and everything else to go. What I do want to bring out with our co-curricular when we met, I know I've been getting phone calls. I believe some of the board members have been getting phone calls about transportation. Transportation is an issue in the district, and I know Mr. Carroll is working hard on transportation, but I want it out there. I want to clear up certain things. I believe cross country at Thompson doesn't have busing. But what I found out is that last year they didn't have busing, so we have some other things around. It's not that it's right, we're just trying to be fair. Fair is not always equal, but we do our best that we can. I want it out there also that as of right now, the transportation, we have up there that the Worcester, north and south track will not have busing as of right now. North basketball is not have busing. We're working on it to get a bus. We know that we really need grants or, going for it to get those buses in and out. We can really use them. But, and come the spring, north and south again, does not have busing to track. And something of the track.
Amy looks confused, so maybe we want. No, I'm not confused. I just want to reiterate that, although some of these sports have not been picked up for bids that will commit them for the whole season, our transportation department and Rich and Kathy Clapp do work very hard every day to get as many things covered as possible. But the issue is that some of the contractors don't want to commit for a whole season because they don't know if they can fulfill all of it. So we are constantly looking for who has availability to get it covered. So I don't want it to sound like, yes, there has been times where transportation hasn't been available, but it's not that when we can get it, we can get it. And it's, there has been sometimes, I believe, Mr. Carroll, that Thompson has had transportation, but it's just not consistent. Right.
I'm just trying to get it out there so that whoever is listening to the video, when it goes out, they know that we did, and you guys know that, and we all are working together to try to provide it. So we can't get the drivers, we just can't get the buses.
Right.
It's not that we don't want it.
And as I say every time, unfortunately, this is not just a Middletown problem.
I know. I want it out there. That's basically what our co-curriculum is all about. But now, when we go to technology, I take it back there. So you have, there's a lot of stuff going on with servers and
Nice to see you. Come on down.
all that stuff.
Good evening. We did meet for a technology meeting after the board projects that are ongoing and some are completed. We discussed the migration of our new virtualized server farm that we completed last week. We migrated or rebuilt over 80 servers over the course of last month from the old equipment to the new. The new infrastructure also has a new backup and replication service or Beam, which backs up our data on the standalone server on the secondary data center, and then also backs it up on the cloud and uses what's called an air gap backup. which breaks up the backup process. So in the event of malware infection, the malware infection cannot follow the backup through the processes. We discussed a new uninterruptible power supply we installed in our secondary data center, which cleans electricity for us. It also provides temporary power in the event the generator come on immediately. For our internet connection, or I'm sorry, our secondary internet connection, our security camera system, phone system, wire and wireless connections. I informed the board that we completed prior to school starting installation of 176 new interactive flat panels across all 16 schools, which brings us to over 500 panels in 4 years. They're getting a lot of good use. We built out on our website a comprehensive Boxlight/Linear, which is software resource page for teachers, which is everything from getting started kits to more advanced usage of the software. And we also continue what we started last year, bringing a vendor in free of charge that provides PD for training sessions. Last week we submitted our annual NJ Tracks submission. NJ Tracks is a program created by the DOE that gauge the technology readiness for online assessments and digital learning in schools in New Jersey. So the submission is pretty comprehensive. It includes everything from classroom locations to access points to types of devices, specification devices, enrollment, testing enrollment, and student enrollment. I'm happy to report that we scored a 9 in every category in this year's report, with 9 being the highest. And then we finally discussed clever badging. Just really briefly, our students use what's called a clever dashboard. So when they log in, they're logging to one dashboard, and they have all the links to all the online applications. This way they don't have to remember multiple passwords, multiple usernames. It makes it quicker and easier for them to access their tools. One of the advanced features that we implemented this year called clever badging. We heard from our elementary teachers, especially our K-2 population, that one of the hangups in the past was it takes a while for younger students to log in. We have complex passwords, and they're 5, 6 years old. So what we did is we created what's called clever badges. We generate the badges, we put the devices in a particular view, and we provide the teachers. So now when students use the Chromebook in a pre-K-2 population, you open up the Chromebook, the camera becomes active, looking for the QR code. The student will just hold that QR code up, and they'll log in and use a password. It's gotten more positive results from teachers or responsible teachers on this than anything else in the past. They've said that they've gone to login students within 30 seconds, which should take 5 to 10 minutes at a time. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions for anyone?
Yeah, I wish we could all get that clever badge because it was all in the slide. It would save everybody a lot of time.
Recommendation.
And I just want to go to one more thing with co-curriculum. I know we were all getting rumors about cheerleading this week. That has all been resolved.
Good.
So if anybody's listening, knows this week has been resolved.
Shared services, we did not meet this month. Legislative, we did not meet this month, right? Now, I'd like to open up the microphone for public comment on agenda items only. If you make comment, please step forward. State your name and address for the record. We need no one coming to the microphone. We'll close public comment and move on. There are proclamation of National Principal Month. We have a motion to approve the minutes, executive session 9/13/22, special voting meeting 9/13/22, executive session 9/20/22, workshop voting meeting 9/20/22. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Or abstentions? I just want to clarify one thing, the National Custodian Workers Recognition Day as well. We have a report, code of ethics for school board members, and we'll turn the microphone over to Mrs. Dora.
Every year, the board is required to acknowledge at a public meeting that they have reviewed the code of ethics for school board members. And also they need to sign an acknowledgement and submit it to me as the board secretary for me to keep on file that they have reviewed the School Ethics Act and the Code of Ethics for board members, and discussed also and acknowledge that they're aware of the training that is necessary. And again, I have to retain those documents for QSAC and any other agency that asks for it. So I will report that each board member has done that. They have reviewed the School Ethics Act and Code of Ethics, and I've received the acknowledgements from each board member to keep on file.
Thank you. Moving on to, I'd like to give a statement saying that I'm very happy to announce that the negotiations committee of the board and the MTEA have agreed upon an MOA on September 27, 2022. This MOA will now be voted on this evening. I want to thank MTA President Mike Mason, along with the association's negotiations team, as well as our negotiations committee for their commitment and professionalism during these discussions. I would also like to thank this board for their support and confidence during this entire process. I'd now like to recommend the approval of the memorandum of agreement between the Middletown Township Board of Education and the Middletown Township Education Association for the term July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2025. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminiti?
Yes.
Mr. Donnelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Heffernan,
Yes.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Mrs. Minimis?
Yes.
Mrs. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Tobacco?
Yes.
Mr. Capone?
Yes. And moving on, items 14A, 3 through 4. I'm sorry,
Oh, 14.
3 and 4, okay, decided 3 and 4, yes.
So, second.
Discussion, all in favor,
I,
opposed,
I'm opposed.
abstentions? The board secretary's monthly certification, Mrs. Doran.
So this is not an action item, it's just my certification that the September 30th, 2022 board secretary's report does not reflect any line item that reflects an account or that is over the appropriation amount in encumbrances and expenditures for New Jersey administration.
Thank you. Motion to approve report of the administrator, items C1 through 3.
So,
Discussion, all in favor? Opposed, abstentions. Item D1 through 10. Discussions, all in favor?
I,
Opposed, abstentions.
I'm opposed on number 2, but I also have a comment.
Mhm.
Under the, number 6, the recommendation of the nursing. I just want to make a suggestion, can we please, go back and provide training for AED and CPR so that we get more people in this building, because some schools have a good number of people trained and other schools have very low numbers. And I know years back, the district did that, where our district nurses trained anybody that wanted to get the training, and I think a refresher course and getting those retraining would be a positive move in our school. That's the only thing I noticed on that, but I am, I'm voting no on number 2.
Thank you. That's a good comment and good recommendation. The motion to approve items B1, 15B1 through 6. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve items C1 through G3 with the exception of D1, which is the first reading. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve items 1 through 17. Personnel, yes, I'm sorry. Second. All in favor? Opposed?
I'm voting no on number B.
Abstentions?
I'm sorry, what number was that?
I believe it's 8B.
Okay.
Moving on to old business.
I just have a clarification because I was working about my comments. I wanted to abstain on number 10.
Which one, Joe?
I don't know the details, but it was under,
Number 10 personnel?
no, number 10 on the recommendation of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. If you give it first, I want to see. No, I didn't say that before. Yeah, I read read to the years.
Okay, moving on to old business. Does anybody have any old business?
Yes. I want to continue to talk about how we've been going on our building tours.
Mhm.
And how we're really, getting to see the buildings and what is needed, and I think that everybody needs to know how important those tours are, because if we're gonna be making future plans, we need to start talking about how we're gonna do it, what we're gonna do, and what's needed. So I think the tours have been very productive. We see some spots that some people have never seen.
For sure.
And you wonder, wow, where did that come from? But it really does give us a good opportunity to see, and with that, I really need to, thank our custodians, because I think our buildings look terrific.
We do.
And I know they've been working really, really hard on that. And, some of the oldest buildings are some of the cleanest buildings, and they look great. And we have a few more of those, so looking forward to seeing them. And, new business. Ocean Avenue is having a gift auction coming up November 18th. If anybody here wants to go, I have a sign-up sheet, and we want to support them. If anybody in the public has any gift baskets or any items they want to donate, we can drop them off at Ocean Avenue School. They're looking for, any kind of donations that people want to make. Harmony's gift auction is this Friday. I think they're sold out. They've been sold out, I think, since the first week, so. Hopefully that's going to be a really successful night for them. Navasink had their fall fest this past weekend, great turnout. The place was packed. The kids out of the storyteller, but nobody wanted to hear a story. They were so busy playing and doing the games and the event that they all just had a great time. So, it was really nice to see a community event on a beautiful weekend day. So, that's my PTA updates, and, our meetings are still coming forward, and so far, very successful meetings and great turnout by parents.
Very good. I'm just gonna go back to old business for a second. I wouldn't get interrupted though. I need to get that in the system, so if anybody has any old businesses to discuss. No, okay. How about new business minus show? Mike,
Different. Yeah, Project Plus started again here down Croydon Hall, started last night for the 8th graders. So it'll be a 4-week session. We just finished up with the high schoolers last week. So now we're on the 4-week program, then we'll bring back into the 5th grade. All right, so that's going live. We have a good crowd.
very nice, good stuff. Yes, sure.
I also want to inform, and it's also in our newsletter, but we are having the third of our parent workshops on SEL and mental health on November 2nd, right here in the library, at 6:30. It's on suicide prevention. There were 2 sessions on, related topics in the spring, and we're gonna have 4 more sessions, 2, the first half of the year, and then 2 more in the spring. So the next one is November 2nd, and we hope to have a bigger turnout than we did in the spring. Even if just a couple parents come, we think it's a success, but we'd like to see a lot.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else for new business? Taylor, I won't put you on the spot, but any new business? It's great having you. Yes. And moving on to public comment, if anyone would like to make a public comment, please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
I have something to say about, okay?
Just not my the question about those in terms of really.
Oh, it's on.
It's on.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, board. Today, I would like to speak with peace about the horrendous mishandling and mistreatment of my best friend Nelson Mitchell's case. Unfortunately, I was not able to speak at the last meeting, also due to the school's mishandling of the situation, and I think we all know exactly what happened there, so I won't rehash that. She was horrendously bullied at the school, in these rooms and in these walls. She was psychologically tortured and trained mentally every day just from walking in the store. She knew her services were a month ago now. No family should have to go through this. We will all be hurt forever. We will never hear her laugh again. We will never see her beautiful smile, her kind heart and soul. And it's been a month since me and her friends and everyone her loved ones were dragged back and forth for pointless investigations and giving empty promises from faculty. I, along with her friends, were harassed for 2 weeks straight. They decided now that she was gone, that this was the right time to put the facts on her. Now, all freshman year, we ought all be very clear with the bullying, the harassment, the cyberbullying. I wrote incident reports, and so did she. They did absolutely nothing. You cannot say you did not make the so-called struggling. She was basically on her knees begging for help. She wouldn't hide behind a smile, and she was real with everyone. She was promised that the bullying would stop. False promises of a zero tolerance policy going around. Clearly, there is some tolerance. Considering these people are still in the extracurriculars and they're harassing me and her real friends that are there. Ignoring people does not make it go, and no task should ever have to be that small. We should not have to raise one child, let alone 2 within a year. I cannot stress further the disgust I feel coming into this building every day, knowing that you all have failed to protect her. But she was just a story to you all now. Did you know she wanted to be a lawyer? And she wasn't scared to talk to kids who would do this weird. And she would be kind to anyone who showed her the same kindness. Kids should not have to kneel at the coffin of their best friend. Her bullies should not be allowed to live freely. So I'm asking you why? Why is her life on that they get to continue living theirs without consequence? How many more kids have to die? I know this is upsetting for some people here, but if you could accurately assess the situation and distribute the discipline properly, I wouldn't have to be here just like she once was, begging for someone to help me to help her. I get that there are policies in place, and it's great that they are, but no policy will do anything if not strictly enforced and regulated. Where are these policies to help her? Everything this district does is too late. We should not have to wait for it to get to such a point that tragedies like this happen. We cannot wait for a suicide to start advocating for preventing it. We all could have been today, and we will not stop until our bullies receive adequate, fair, and just punishment. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to make a public comment? Seeing no one to the microphone, we'll make a motion to close the public comment and a motion to adjourn the meeting. Second. Discussion, all in favor? Opposed, abstentions. Have a good night, everyone.